The personal connection. The personal connection.
The personal connection.
The Personal Connection Podcast, the show where we explore the importance of the personal connection and how this translates into business. Discussing the topic with leading professionals to help you unlock the reach your company can have. The Personal Connection Podcast, brought to you by Emotive. One chance to interrupt, make it count. Imagery that instantly connects.
So today we're back with the personal connection, and it's time to spin the whole podcast on its heels and head off in a new direction. Everything we've been talking about recently has been about communication and what companies can do and how they can embrace communication. But everything for me about this podcast is about people and people first, and how we deal with people and look after them, and how we make sure that everything we do is people first. So I'm going to head everything off in a totally new tangent, and we're going to look more at wellness and the person themselves. And I'm delighted to start this new mini chapter, this new mini series of The Personal Connection with Tracey Nixon from Plum Essence Therapies. Tracey's been introduced to me by a good friend of mine who said, amongst everything else, she's a bag full of energy, and get the bleep machine ready as well, because you may well need it. So good luck, hold on to your hats, and we'll see where we go. So Tracey, tell us, where did you end up from your corporate career 20 years ago to do what you do now with Plum Essence, and why did you do it?
Okay, so 20 years ago, I was in quite a bad relationship, ended up in hospital, was a bit of a mess physically. Without realising it, my mental health deteriorated rapidly. And then in July 2020, I attempted to take my own life. Wow. I was actually sectioned under the Mental Health Act. I was incredibly angry. I really didn't want to be there. Has since realised, PTSD has stopped me not actually remembering any of that time, little bits, but I can't remember much at all. And then part of my occupational and therapy program, not only counselling, I was given relaxation classes, which I now was meditation and mindfulness, but obviously then it wouldn't be said. And I was put on a program to learn aromatherapy and massage. And part of that was to help with my own fractured back. And it just didn't stop. And that was it. I loved it. I loved the whole holistic approach. I was obsessed then with learning more about the body, and in hindsight, didn't realise it then, but know now about that sort of mind-body connection, and realising, how what's going on in our heads affects our physical bodies, but also how physical pain can also cause emotional trauma or emotional stuff going on in our bodies as well. And so that's how it started. And wow, okay. I still had my corporate job. I was still moving around the country for my work as a money laundering and fraud investigator, and ended up in a very, very stressful position in end of 2010, 2011. Couldn't handle it anymore. The stress of the job just really wasn't worth it. Other things going on in my life, getting divorced, my dad dying. It was just all too much. Recognised what was happening to my mental health and decided to just leave. So I was living in the Midlands, no friends or family, no client base, and just went for it. Just walked out, spent a lot of time getting well physically and mentally, and then just decided to get myself a little £75 website then and put myself out there. And then that's it. It's just developed from there.
Superb, mate. I mean, you've covered so many points straight away there that we can explore through this episode. But I think one of the biggest ones is people realising that they, one, have a problem, and two, how the hell to deal with it. We all end up, so many of us end up stressed in one way or another. And of course, there's good stress and bad stress as well. That's an important thing to realise. It's all wrapped under one umbrella. But pressure is a good thing. But it's when everything gets too much, it's how you deal with it. And yes, as you said, it's also your physical health as well. There's so many people talking about, COVID bodies that have come on, and then other people have gone the opposite way and took the opportunity to get out there and get running or whatever else. Mm-hmm. But you've got to get that balance, haven't you? You've got to look after yourself, because if you don't, for one thing, you'll burn out. And two, you never perform in the best way possible, do you? It's so important.
No, it is. And, one thing I often say to people, and again, listening to clients or seeing friends and family do this, if you don't stop, your body will force you to. And usually this is the reflection time when someone's had a heart attack or had a stroke or some sort of serious illness, usually when it's put them in hospital, and that's when they have the time to reflect, for me as well. I don't earn anywhere near what I was earning before, but am I happy? Oh God, yes, and that is so important. And one thing I learned as well, I worked in a hospice for a while, volunteering as a therapist there. And you know what? Nobody in that hospice I was at in the patient said, I am so glad I worked all those hours. Nobody said, I am so glad I didn't see the world. I am so glad I missed my daughter's first steps. Whatever it was, all of their biggest regrets were life, work. The life as in keep going, not doing any of the enjoying. And I know there is a book out, the 5 major things of the dying, or the 10 major things of the dying, that a nurse wrote. And I do sit there thinking, God, I wished I'd written that. But, and you put all of those things together, you cannot keep on going. You cannot think I'm going to be so productive and do everything I can. If it does lead to burnout, there's just no point. There is no point.
Yeah, and it's burnout both physically and mentally, isn't it? That's the point. That, well, for one, as you've already mentioned, both are connected anyway. But you can't just keep doing it forever. And I mean, one of the biggest things and biggest reflections I've taken during this wonderful year that we've had is the value of time. And I've spent years building up my businesses, chasing my backside, and life and home life especially not being the first priority, and business was priority number one. Mm-hmm. And then looking back at it this year, it's like, you know what? None of that matters. All that matters is quality of life and what you're doing and how you're enjoying it and what you're getting out of it. And, we've said that that's going to be our biggest thing. It's always going to be a challenge to balance everything. But for us, finding that time, that family time, is going to be so damned important going forward. To just keep control of everything, really, and do it for the right reasons rather than just working for the sake of it.
And the other thing is, where was I going here? Doing everything constantly. You were saying about, trying to do everything. And if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after anybody else anyway. So if you are in hospital after having a stroke, or you have had a mental breakdown, or, you're laid up with some terrible illness, or even a bad flu for a week, what your men are like, what good are you to anybody then? Even the mum or the dads that work full time doing everything and then coming home and they're feeling too shattered to spend time with the children. If you don't look after yourself, you can't look after anybody else. And you mentioned the family time. I think people worry about how this has affected kids as well. And I can't help thinking, where I live out in the sticks, I sort of went out for walks every day and saw kids out riding bikes with their dads. I saw lots of dads. I have to admit, I saw less women on the bikes. But I can just imagine, kids going, oh, that was a brilliant year. It's when I went out for a ride with my dad every day. Yeah. And I'd go out for walks and you see the dads playing football in the gardens, and you just sit there thinking, I've never seen that before. I go for a walk nearly every day and I didn't see that. And I just think, hopefully, lots of the parents or guardians, whoever it is that looks after the children, like you say, will remember this and think, I don't want this to stop.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
People have to go to work, but don't stop it. Like you say, value that time and build in the importance of it. you mentioned about striving for work, and it's when we're setting up businesses, we have coaches and business coaches that are always like, goals, 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 goals. What do you want? What do you want? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And I'm partly like, you know what? I don't really care where I am in 5 years' time, because I'm going to enjoy today. So one of the things I do say with sort of some of my clients as well is it's baby steps and enjoy the journey. I know it seems a bit of a cliche thing to say this year, but definitely stop aiming for your goals in such a way that you forget what you're doing on the way.
Totally. And going back to that, you were saying about, with families actually having quality family time. It was amazing to see, even silly, simple things like them going for walks together and everything. It was great to see it. Unfortunately, especially where we are, seeing none of that now and hearing none of that. And it's such a shame that it seems to have already got lost. And maybe that's society. We don't look at things in the right way. We don't balance things in the right way. And, you got all the pressures of work and everything. And it's a damn shame, because as you say, there's every chance that if you looked at it the right way, you could think 2020 was one amazing year, because we got to press the reset button a little bit. And I mean, one of my favorite images that I saw throughout, the whole period is the healing of LA in America. How the sky changed in Los Angeles from the smog that it is every single day to a bit clearer to blue skies. And it was like, you know what? If we applied that same principle to ourselves as people, God, it'd be a good place to be, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, and that did happen here. I do think that the skies looked clearer, and, you did see the pictures of London looking amazing. You could actually see the buildings and the architecture and, like you say, the blue skies. And it is a real shame that people have gone back very quickly when they seemed to promise themselves they wouldn't.
Yeah, it's all too easy, isn't it, to feel the pressures that are, whether it's put on us by ourselves or put on us by our management sort of thing, that are back to looking at targets and everything else. But there's got to be ways that you deal with that, hasn't there? And people should, I think, invest in someone to guide them and coach them on that side of things as well, as well as they would with a business coach. There's experts out there, hence I've got you on the podcast, that can help guide you through and help tweak and improve things, because there's only one you. As you say, sometimes it takes people being in hospital to realize that we're vulnerable, but we all are.
This week is those awareness weeks, and it's actually National Work-Life Balance Week. And this week I've just put loads of hints and tips up. But what I've ended up realizing I've focused on when I was planning my social media was about boundaries. Okay. And do have to set ourselves our boundaries and sticking to them and having the confidence to say no, whether you're a business owner, say no if you don't want that client. If your gut feeling is telling you something, it's usually right, even if it means saying no. Say no to people and have that confidence in saying that, know what your boundaries are. So stop the phone, turn off the emails. Me, myself, my phone does not make any of those sort of pinging and dinging noises after 8 o'clock at night or before 6 in the morning, apart from the ice codes. So like my mum and my sister and that can get through. But otherwise, it's the equivalent of having the phone off. And I will go out for lots of walks and hiking without the phone on because I want to switch off. We shouldn't be available 24/7 for our family and certainly not for our employers.
No, exactly. And I think it's realizing that you can do that. My wife, she's started a new job in September, and she now works her hours and then doesn't feel guilty about not checking her phone outside of those hours. Where when she was in teaching, it was 24/7. You got messages pinging up from parents or from staff, and there just wasn't that switch off and that boundary. And she caught up with a friend the other day and realizing, literally, they went for dinner, and within an hour and a half, the friend had 12 emails and 4 messages come through. And this was 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. And it's just like, where's the life in that, We've got to set ourselves boundaries. I'm not great at it all the time. I am at times a self-confessed workaholic. I do that, but I appreciate that I should, take that time to, put life first,
Yeah, definitely. And if you are answering emails 7:30, 8:00, 9:00, 10 o'clock at night, you're teaching the people you're responding to that that's okay.
Yeah.
And it isn't.
Yeah,
it isn't.
And then suddenly it's expected, isn't it?
Exactly. So what you end up doing is you're setting up people's expectations. So, put it on your website that your working hours are this till this, 6 till 8 or 8 till 8 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon till 8 if you want to, and set those expectations, put an out of office on when, I think mine says something like, I will answer within 48 hours, for the teaching stuff I do. There is absolutely no promise that I will answer you within an hour or two, and setting those. And I don't think I've probably had one person have a whinge and a complain, and then he's not my ideal client, and go to someone who is going to meet your expectations then, because I don't want you. But that does take confidence.
That takes confidence. It takes confidence, and it takes a bit of time as well, doesn't it? But there's nothing more empowering than saying no. No is one of the best words. I've discussed it with people before about marketing, and you get an answer from a potential customer that's no. Great, embrace it. But do it the other way around as well. So when someone comes to you, if it's not right, say no, and put those boundaries up, because it's all about service, isn't it? And service to yourself as well, in a way. Then I definitely do with clients. If I'm not happy with something, or whether it's a finance thing or whether it's a style thing, whatever, if it's not right, I will always put my hand up and say, no, not right, but I'll send you to someone. I'll always go above and beyond to help them, because I'd rather be remembered for that than the guy who took the job on that shouldn't have,
And if you take that on, it plays on your mind. You might not sleep well. What's today? Monday. Let's say you take on a job this afternoon, or someone does something. You might not sleep well tonight. And if you don't sleep well tonight, you might wake up a little bit ratty in the morning. This is how things escalate. It might be that, someone in your family says something, your wife, partner, I don't know, your living thing, but, they might just say something, you snap at them. And before you know it, she's gone to work in a ratty mood. You're in a ratty mood. You don't talk about it then when you come home. And before you know it, potentially you're getting divorced in 2 years' time, and you've actually no idea what caused it. And actually what caused it, one night of not sleeping very well because some client was bugging the hell out of you, and it was playing on your mind, and I've seen it happen. Talking to people, and they're like, I've actually no idea where the problem started.
Okay.
You got to think about, is work worth your divorce, for instance, or is work worth your ill health mentally or physically? So yeah, it does take confidence, takes a lot of training. And like you say, training in your own mind, but you need someone supportive for you as well to talk it through, you, an accountability buddy, your business coach, just to talk it through, to sort out in your own head why you don't want to do it or what that gut feeling is. And you'll come to your own answers. Often you'll come to your own answers. That's what good therapists are about sometimes, is prompting you. And good business coaches is to prompt you to find your own answers and help you through those. And once you sit there going, yeah, that's why I'm not happy. Right. Now I know. I'm going to do it now. I'm going to say no now. Totally. And there's a few key points that you've picked up on, and I think one of them I'd love to explore with you a little bit, because I think it will definitely help the listener, because we've all been there, where we're lying awake at night, unable to sleep, and sometimes you don't know why, but it's not good for you. You need to be able to switch off. Yeah. What's the magic? How can we empower the listener to manage to get a damn good night's sleep without having to resort to the gin?
Of course, gin always helps. But
or sleeping tablets, the prescribed sleeping tablets. I really, really, really massively encourage and advocate a routine, a switch off routine.
Which, of course, is something that people didn't have during COVID and during the lockdown.
Exactly. And it is. If so, I know you can see me. So I've got my work clothes on right now. So I wear purple when I'm working, or plum when I'm working. But when I'm finished, I will take off these clothes and put on what I call my slobby clothes, my hanging around clothes. So it's like the equivalent of taking off a uniform. So once you're taking off a uniform, you're getting out of work mode. Definitely turn off that phone. Yeah, stop those emails pinging through. Put the phone in a bloody drawer. So you can't. I only said bloody.
That's tame. The conversation is young. Carry on.
Put the phone in a drawer so you can't even see it or feel it vibrating or whatever. If you're going to work from home, pack up the laptop if you have to work a laptop, or try and have a separate workplace, and turn it all off, put everything away. If you're working from the dining room table like I am today, put everything away. That's the equivalent of your commute time. I see that as that. So when you're commuting, I know for me, when I used to commute, I would get off and walk. I'd park the furthest car park away from the train station. So that walk was my time turning off. Yeah. So by the time I got into the car, I'd switched off work then. I was kind of in Stafford now, ready to go home, a routine. Get off the work clothes, or put on work clothes if you're working from home, and then take them off at the end of the day. Switch off that phone. If it helps, write down what it is you're going to do tomorrow. So, I will answer these person's emails. I will do my social media. I will, whatever, you might edit some photos. Okay. They're my 3 things I am definitely going to do tomorrow. And then do the tea, go for a walk, spend the time with the children or your loved ones. But, it is get off that technology and anything to do with work. I really advocate this kind of, if you get ready for work in the morning, get ready for your chill time when you're finished.
There's a really powerful message underlying that last bit that you've said there. And that's the fact that chill time, the time away from work, is at least as important as your time at work.
Yeah. And
it's giving it that same sort of respect, isn't it? And it's putting those boundaries up and things. But something I love doing, and I'm looking at my computer screen now, it is covered in Post-it notes. There's lists everywhere. Because if I've got something in my mind, I've got to write it down. It was a skill I was given by a coach years ago. Because something that's in your mind that you think, oh, no, it's fine, I'm not thinking about it. You are. It's always there. It's taking up valuable space. And in my limited head, I need to keep all the space free that I can possibly get. So it's write stuff down, clear it, and then it's not a problem. I mean, my wife's just started doing a whole list of what she does during the week, what she's got coming up, just keeps it as a tracker, crosses it off on a Friday, closes it down on a Friday, ready for the Monday, resaves it. So then totally didn't even think about work over the weekend. And I was like, that's bloody genius. Why haven't I thought about doing that? But putting lists and writing stuff down is great.
I call it thought dumping. Get a piece of paper and dump down your thoughts. Don't think about spelling or grammatics or anything like that. Just get that stuff down. Right, scribble it. And then you can think, right, this is all the stuff what I want to do. You can even put in little compartments, what's important, what's urgent. You see all these little theorists, what's important and urgent, do that if you need to. The other thing is, if you keep carrying something over, does that mean it really needs to be done? Or can as business owners, why are we not doing it? Can we outsource it? So, we both know about social media, for instance. Yeah. So it's not our bag. Let's find someone else to do it for us. If it's your accounts and you think, oh my God, it's the 15th of January and our self-assessments have to be in the 31st. just get someone else to do your accounts. Don't leave it till the last minute where you've now got 2 weeks to do a year's worth of accounts, for instance, you know. So yeah, do the thought dumping. But the other thing about writing, what's very cleansing for a lot of people and clearing your headspace is, I don't do it personally, but I know people do it, is the journaling. You know, the equivalent of us as kids, we used to write a diary of our day, and these days it's called journaling, I suppose, but dumping your thoughts about how you feel about anything or what's upset you that day. You just get it out on a bit of paper. Nobody else has to see it. And there's definitely a scientific proof, and I'm not very good at remembering names or theorists, but literally using your hand and a good old-fashioned pen and paper to write it rather than typing it. So the other thing is, clear your thoughts by, this is what I've got to do tomorrow or for the rest of the week, but actually I'm dumping my thoughts, the equivalent of how we used to write a diary, of getting out what has taken up headspace that day, or, you know, even I didn't do that very well today. This is how I'm going to tackle it next time if it comes up, for instance. But, you know, Stu really upset me today, and this is why. Written it, it's okay, it's gone now. Stu doesn't need to know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, it's in my lockable diary, and I always say to people, if you write things down and you don't want someone to read it, burn it.
Straight away. But but you've still gone through that process, haven't you? That's the point. You've dumped it from your brain, got it out of the way, and then it's gone, and it's not anything you've got to worry about. So apart from writing things down to get them, whether it's out of your mind or just get them onto an agenda to do, what about spotting when you need help? When should we, how the hell can we do that before it goes too far down the line, really?
Yeah, I remember once someone saying to me, when's the best time? When do you know? He said something like, when do you know you need a therapist, or when should I contact a therapist? And I remember saying to him, when you ask that question. Yeah,
it's already time, yeah.
Yeah, you've gone beyond it. As in, you need that question, you need that therapist now. But as soon as you take note of what people are saying, when you realise you're being ratty, or when we know when we don't sleep well. We know it, don't we? We don't need a little Fitbit or a little thing attached to our phones, attached to our beds to tell us how much we've slept. We generally know if we've slept well. We generally know if we just feel a bit rubbish. You know, when you're usually full of vitality and energy, I know. And, when they say you feel a bit meh, you're not quite sure. We know what our bodies are like. We know what our minds are like. And we do know, it's just about accepting it and listening to other people. So, if your wife says to you, well, you're being a bit ratty, or kids are brilliantly honest, aren't they? Well, you're horrible today, Dad, or you're being horrible today, Mum, whatever it is, they're beautifully honest, aren't they? In their own ways. Listen to what they're saying. Definitely listen to what they're saying. And there's nothing wrong with seeking a therapy, whether it's a talking therapy or physical therapy, to help you sleep. Have a great massage, go and have hypnosis, or just talk out what's going on in your head, so that how do we know? We do know. It's just about accepting it and stop fighting it. We know we're tired. I just got to get this done. I've just got to do this. I've just got to do that. And then we can be overtired. I think we can be overtired as well, which stops us sleeping well. We can sleep too heavily, for instance. But there isn't, one thing I strongly say as well, there isn't a one size fits all. I know I've given what I think is a sleep routine, and for everybody it's I can't write it down, I don't have time to write it down. Well, don't watch EastEnders then, whatever it is.
Exactly.
We would know if you exercise a lot and you can't be bothered to exercise today, that's fine. But if you can't be bothered to exercise tomorrow either, well, okay, 2 days off. But then the next day you think, I really can't be bothered. We know what we're good at. We know what our routines are. And you do know. It is just about
being honest, I guess.
Confidence,
and admitting to yourself that things aren't quite right, and then do something about it. You know, put that as your first priority, to do something about it, rather than just brush it under the carpet.
Definitely. Yeah. Go, it doesn't have to be, one thing I'm massively doing, I know you've got a sort of specific mental health podcast coming up, but, there is nothing wrong with admitting that either if we break our fingers, we're quite happy to tell people, and we're quite happy to go to the hospital and get bandaged up or whatever it is, to make our fingers better. So what's wrong with saying there's just a little bit of a broken brain going on there, and admitting, it could be just one session of, like I say, a physical therapy, or, seeing a talking therapist. And sometimes that's all you need to sort yourself out, because think of our bodies and minds. People have their cars serviced and their washing machines.
Or if someone's pulled the back, they'll go to a physio or whatever else. So why not do the same for anything mental as well,
Exactly, but people will fight the physical pain as well, oh, it's just a twinge. And before we know it, they're incapacitated. Well, I wished people would come to see me when it was just a twinge, because it's easier to sort out, and probably in one session, than before they can't hardly walk and get up the stairs to the treatment room. And now it becomes a number of sessions to get well. And it's the same with mental health as well. Just take that 5 minutes to dump your thoughts. Take 5 minutes to go for a walk to clear your head before bed. But how do we know? We do know. And there is, you can go and see somebody at any time. Someone will fit you in, I'm sure. We are fully booked, as you are. Self-employed people or businesses will be booked, but they will also see you. And no therapist, physical or mental, probably hasn't heard any of it before, and there is no shame in it, and they won't judge you. And good therapists have usually been through it.
Yeah, and that's why you can give honest and open feedback and give them the tools to get through it. It's go to the experts, ask for that help. As you said, whether it's a one-off session or whatever, whatever you need, just make sure you do it. I think it was something that, especially as Brits, we've been bad at. It's that stiff upper lip rubbish, isn't it? That we don't ask for help and seek it, where the Americans have been great at it for years. And I think it's something that, as businesses as well, it's important that we start doing. So whether we're individuals and we do every part of the business, or whether you're as part of a team, looking after people's health is both physical and emotional and mental is so damn important. Nothing's more expensive than having someone off work sick, compared with looking after them in the first place. It doesn't take long to look at the figures and realise how valuable it is to make sure everyone's on full.
Yes. I could definitely get on my soapbox about that as an ex-accountant as well. I do think that businesses will see sort of well-being as a cost because they get this physical invoice. Yeah. But I often think that if they broke down wages, the wages bill between attended costs and sickness costs, for instance, or absence costs, they would see that cost that little bit more, and would see that, mental health first aid training would be brilliant, just doing on-site wellbeing days. I know that we have these awareness days and are great. I've worked in some businesses where they have a wellbeing day, but you know what, once a year really doesn't motivate the staff, really doesn't make them feel that loved and protected and valued. Protected, I didn't mean that, but valued.
Definitely. Yeah, that's the thing.
And once a year, having a sort of a 20-minute massage really doesn't cut the mustard for most of them at all. They want less hours or flexible working, or these days at the moment, good, correct setups and assessments at home as well. Or, like I say, it's Work-Life Wellbeing Week. Let's have it 52 weeks of the year, not 1 week a year. I know it's awareness, but then you have the people going, oh, I've done it this week, that's fine. And no, it isn't. And it's the same with the self-employed, or us as freelancers. If we don't work, we don't earn. So, we've got to look after ourselves all of the time. And for you and I, for instance, it might be that we're making mistakes. And you just think, well, I'm not normally like this. Why are you making a mistake? Because you're rushing the job before the next one? Or is it because you're tired?
Or is it because of fatigue building up as well? That's the point. Yeah, fatigue's something that's totally different to being tired. And I've just gone through an updated drone qualification as a pilot, remote pilot. And one of the big chapters on that was about fatigue, because it's that high intensity stress, lots, and often it keeps coming up. So you have massive highs, massive lows, massive highs, lows. And I think I have that with my general work anyway, because, with photography, it's you're in, you perform, you overperform normally to get the best out of someone. And then you crash. And then you got to do it again. And then you crash. And it's, that bouncing of energy levels and mental concentration and things just mess you up. And you need to get away from that sometimes and realize that you need a break, and that's where you need that sleep as well. So it all comes back to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And this is where they say, time out in nature is naturally relaxing. I do lots of hiking and walking. I realize I love being up. So I'm up in the peaks or in the mountains. No Wi-Fi signals, brilliant. No one can even contact me. I actually only have my phone on me these days in case I get lost. That's about fair. Or I need to find where the nearest pub is once I've finished the walk. It's right. I'm not very into that, but I go out on my own. I suppose as a lone female, you kind of have to be a bit more aware and keep my mum happy, to tell you the truth. But no signals. Go and switch off. Go camping for 2 days or go in a nice hotel for 2 days, whatever it is, but get away from work or whatever the stressors are, definitely. And the highs and lows are fine and they can work for people. What causes the burnout and this constant, the fatigue that leads to exhaustion is when you're constantly high, the adrenaline is constantly going. And then, that's when the problems start, when it's chronically at our stress levels and dips. I know you can see my hands. The dips are allowed. We're allowed to get good and then calm down, get good, but it's when our stress hormones are heightened all of the time, that is what exhausts us. But again, this is where writing your diary can help. What's upset you today? Have we got more things written down that's upset us than what we are grateful for, then we'll know, or how much we're in pain that day compared to normal. If it happens all of the time, then we've got to sort it. But we do know, and we need to listen to what other people are saying to us without us snapping back at them, thinking they're being overly critical of us, when all they're actually trying to do is
just help,
show that they care. They are trying to help. And men are especially bad. We really wanted to look at statistics. It's something like 74% of women are diagnosed, i.e., so they must have gone to a GP, are diagnosed with stress, anxiety, or depression, for instance. And so we tend to think that women are the worst. But if we look at, to get to what I'm passionate about, if we look to suicide figures, we're looking at 76% of suicides worldwide, as well as in the UK, are men. And so the men are not seeking that help. And why not? The stigma has to stop. So you boys, I know that you guys are being told to man up, and it's not manly to keep on fighting physically or mentally. So please recognize know your own body and know your own mind, and be honest, like you say, be honest with yourselves when something just doesn't feel right. Whether you're having constant coughs and colds, whether you're just feeling rubbish all of the time, this is your immune system breaking down and trying to give you a message. So
listen, and take notes and take heed as well. That's the thing.
And then do something about it and stop popping the Beecham's powders, if I'm allowed to say a name, but I can't think of anything else.
Yeah.
Stop popping them, I can't think of anything else.
Yeah.
White as rain, according to the advert, in 24 hours. And there's a reason why it's happening. And so, guys, talk amongst yourselves. Talk to friends and family, therefore understanding your own mind and body and recognise when something's wrong. And if your mate is saying to you, oh, you're being a bit of a idiot today.
Well filtered.
I know you guys will say swear words. If you're being a bit of a what's it today, then he's giving you a message, probably in a jokey way, but he is trying to tell you you're being a bit of a what's it, a-hole or whatever for a reason, and recognise that you are instead of falling out with him.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So if we've started to hit some chords as the listeners going through this now and thinking, you know what, maybe I could do with a bit of help, or I've felt like that or anything, or like say stress, stress is one of the biggest things that people struggle to deal with. And I know it's something that you do a lot of work around, where you've got programs that you can go in and help people and actually to use the word, to make an impact, and it's empowering people, isn't it? So tell us about that side of things, that how you can dive in and help and give people the tools to cope with everything.
Well, again, there is no one size fits all. I strongly think, and I'm going to go assuming that you go sort of down the private route. If you go to the NHS, you're going to be allocated a 6-week session with a therapist, a counsellor or a physiotherapist, whatever it is, and that's it, And at the moment, a lot of those are online, or even text messaging services, which not necessarily the best for lots of people. So try and build rapport with someone. I personally will have a telephone conversation with everybody to see if we can work together. Literally, it is a case of, can I work with them, not just can they work with me? So talk to somebody to start with, even if you don't want to pay for therapists, there's lots of charity run ones out there, and we will know sort of the big national ones as sort of little local ones to where you are, but there is no one size fits all, and a good therapist, physical or mental, will work with you to find out where those problems come from. I'm passionate about finding the root causes, so I don't just treat the outside, if you like. I like to sort of unravel people and unlayer them, all like little onions, and get to the root cause. It's no good putting a plaster on the cut, as it were. You need to find out why the cut was there, and talk to people, and a good therapist will find the root cause, and there could be more than one, and most of the time, I would say it can get very messy before it gets better. The finding out what's causing you the stress can cause a lot of inner turmoil, and that honesty is, but it's this person and I love this person, or it's this thing, or I love my job, what am I going to do instead? And I get that, and loads of people will, but no one says the changes or the massive changes have to happen straight away. And this can be an overwhelm, which causes more stress. So let's do one thing at a time. No one suggests that you go and run a marathon tomorrow if you've not walked for 10 minutes in the past 2 years. So let's start walking first. And that's the same with, I think, lots of therapies, is finding out what all of those stresses are. I do sort of like consultation sheets and a little box ticking and analysis, reading sentences, the sort of old sort of psychometric test type things, I suppose. But then work on one thing at a time. What is it we can work on at a time? And most of the time there is an answer if people are willing to find it and admit to it. Yeah.
Love it. So it is very much a case of whatever's right for each and every person when they present, essentially. It's not a case of picking a a service off the shelf and be like, okay, that will do. It's all about the individual, and it's all about, coming back to the title of the podcast, just making that personal connection with them that you can then make a difference. If those barriers are lowered and people actually let you in, then that's when you can make a real difference as a therapist, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Going back to sort of like the workplace stuff, it's if you want people on board as employees, find out what their motivators are, because I don't know, a 5% bonus at the end of the year isn't necessarily going to work to someone who's not sort of money orientated, but they would quite like to be off an hour earlier every day to go and pick up the children from school and have their tea with them, and they could be more productive in 5 hours a day than 8 hours because they're forced to work those hours. You know what I mean? It kind of sounds, again, a bit of a cliche, but we are called sort of holistic therapists, and it is about looking at the person as a whole. You wouldn't go and shoot a wedding and recommend to absolutely every couple, well, I wouldn't assume, but the same venue to everybody, because I assume you would ask about, it depend on their age maybe, and the size of the family, whether they're having an intimate affair, whether they're having an affair that costs hundreds of thousands of pounds. You wouldn't say, I recommend this hall for everybody, because for me, when I got married, it was I had a medieval themed wedding, so I wouldn't want to go to some posh hotel because it didn't fit.
Exactly. Well, it's like when it was back, with our wedding, we didn't want to have a big grand affair. We wanted it to be chilled out and just be a damn good celebration with everyone, and that's what mattered. And for us, it was actually being in our favourite place, up in the Lake District, because it's just that there's something about the energy up there. I just absolutely love it. Being up in those hills and out on that lake is just bloody awesome. But it wouldn't be right for everyone.
No.
And I think that's what we all need to remember as well in life generally, is the fact that we're all so different is what's special. And that is the good thing. So let's embrace it and celebrate it, and all be our own version of a little bit quirky,
Yes, yeah. And take that holistic approach. Look at the person as a whole. Look at the situation as a whole. I walked out on my job, but I realised that's not for everybody. I moved to the Midlands not knowing anybody, and some would say that's brave, and others would say I was absolutely bonkers. And it's not for everybody. But it doesn't affect me. I embraced that. I wanted that. I thought it was good for me. But I'm certainly not going to do it to someone whose, lives revolve around their family every day, So I'm different in that sense. I'm not saying that they, have to get divorced straight away, but there's no shame admitting that relationships break down either, whether it's work, family, loved ones, friends you've known for years, if they're causing some sort of a stress or upset, and you as the person will really know that, then there's nothing wrong with breaking away from it. And even if it means talking to someone about it and making you realise that, then that's the way to do it, definitely.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I think you could talk, we could carry on exploring this topic forever because it's massive. We haven't even scratched the surface at all. But if, the listeners listening to this and thinking, you know what, I really need to talk to Tracey and find out how she can help me, how are they best to find you and get in touch and see how you can possibly work with them?
Yeah. So there's a lot of information on my website, as you know, blogs and information about physical and mental therapies, which is plumessencetherapies.co.uk. Facebook, Plum Essence Therapies and Training. But I'm always happy to take a call, messages. Brilliant things that we've got these days is more stuff is online and virtual. And I'm always happy to just chat over anything. And if I can't help them, as you said before, move them on to someone else or recommend them to someone who's going to be more of a specialist. I've had someone come to me who's I can't wait, sort of discharged from the army. I can't help what's going on in his head because I don't understand. Yeah. But I do know a therapist who's ex-army who will understand the PTSD that's going on in that guy's head. So I'll move him on. So yes, so contact me through my website, plumessencetherapies.co.uk, Facebook, Plum Essence Therapies and Training. All of those have got my telephone numbers on, and just call for a chat and see how we can help. Definitely.
Superb. Well, thank you so much for coming on and joining us and sharing some little tidbits, even just giving those simple skills around sleep and everything, and how to just realize that we're all a little bit broken at times and we do need to put our hands up and ask for help. It's sometimes you do need that little hand up to get back on the wheel, and get out of it. But so I look forward to chatting again and bringing you on and maybe exploring the other side of it, the whole business mindset, that sort of the growth idea thing as well, because I think that we could take an interesting conversation down that route. So Tracey, thank you very much, mate. It's been a pleasure.
No problem. Thank you, Jay. Stu, thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to that as much as I enjoyed talking to Tracey. And it's such an important topic that we covered. Looking after yourself, or indeed looking after your team, is so damn important. We're only one person and we've only got one life, and we've got to look after ourselves, and mental health, well-being, it's got to come into it. It's so important to look after things. So Tracey, thanks again for everything that you shared. Even just giving the listener simple tips about sleep and getting those stresses out your head, whether it's old school journaling or is that new school journaling? I'm not sure. Or just writing things down and clearing them out your mind so you can get on with something else. It's so important. Don't let technology take over. It's very much a case of, for me, I always think, take that time to get away from it all, separate. And I'm not the best at doing it, but I know it matters, and it's certainly something I'm going to try and do a lot more. This year's been an interesting one, and it's taught me a lot about time and how important that is. And it's something that we're going to do all we can to embrace, and I hope you are going to do the same. So this is the first of a mini little series all about well-being, and I've got a couple of really interesting guests lined up over the next couple of episodes. So look forward to sharing what they've got with you very soon. And don't forget, if you do need that help and you think you do, or maybe you're just not sure and you're starting to question things, talk to people and listen when they talk to you. And if you want to find out more about what Tracey can do for you, head to plumessencetherapies.co.uk. I'm Stuart James from Emotive Eye. You got one chance to